There is something your cat has never told you. Not because it cannot communicate, but because it remembered. It remembered the exact moment, the exact room, your face, and that has been quietly making a decision about you ever since. Cats are not dramatic. They are not petty. What looks like a grudge is actually something far more profound and far more heartbreaking. It is a survival response so deeply wired into their brains that forgetting is literally not an option. Once a cat's trust is broken, the architecture of their mind physically changes. And today, science is finally giving us the full picture of what we are actually doing to these animals when we do 10 very specific things. Some of these will surprise you. One of them might make you feel sick. All of them matter. The first one starts with your voice. Cats can hear up to 85,000 hertz. To put that in perspective, humans max out at around 20,000. That means your cat is not just hearing your raised voice the way you do. Their ears are picking it up like a concert speaker pressed directly against their skull. 32 independent muscles rotate each ear like a satellite dish, amplifying the sound even further. And here is what makes this genuinely alarming. Researchers have identified a condition called feline audiogenic reflex seizures, and the trigger is not even a scream. It can be the sharp crack of a dropped spoon, the crinkle of tin foil, a yell from the next room. In older cats especially, that sudden sharp sound can cause the brain's electrical activity to catastrophically misfire, producing seizures ranging from brief muscle spasms to a full collapse with loss of consciousness. Veterinary neurologists discovered this condition only recently, which means for decades, owners had no idea that screaming at their cat was not just ineffective discipline. In some cases, it was causing neurological events. When your cat hides after you lose your temper, it is not being sensitive. Its brain just treated your voice as a physical threat. The second thing involves something that looks completely harmless, playful even. Pulling a cat's tail, startling it while it sleeps, picking it up over and over when it is clearly trying to leave. These are the actions most people call teasing, and most people believe cats simply get over it. The science says something terrifying. When a cat is repeatedly put in situations where it desperately wants to flee but cannot, the nervous system begins to break. Not metaphorically, literally. The continuous activation of specific receptors in the spinal cord causes the pain pathways to rewire in a process called central neuronal hypersensitization. The brain starts registering normal, completely harmless sensations as agonizing. A light touch on the back, a gentle breeze, standard atmospheric pressure changes. This is the neurological reality of a condition called feline hyperesthesia syndrome, sometimes called twitchy cat syndrome. Affected cats experience their skin rippling and convulsing uncontrollably. Their pupils dilate in terror as they stare at their own flanks. They attack their own tails and paws, mutilating themselves in a desperate attempt to escape pain that has no external source. The pain is coming from inside a nervous system that has been permanently overloaded. Teasing a cat does not annoy it. It can fracture its entire sensory processing system for life. The third behavior is one of the most controversial topics in pet ownership, and the science has finally delivered a definitive verdict. Declawing. Most people think of it as an advanced nail trim. It is not. An onychectomy, which is the medical name for the procedure, is the surgical amputation of the last bone of each toe. If you want the most accurate human equivalent, it is cutting off every finger at the last knuckle. Every single one. But the real devastation is biomechanical, and it continues long after the surgery. Cats are built to walk exclusively on their toes. It is how their entire skeleton is designed. When those toe bones are removed, cats cannot bear weight that way anymore. The pain forces them to shift backward onto their wrists and ankles, a posture no healthy cat should ever have. The shock that would normally be absorbed by the paw now travels directly up the legs into the spine with every single step, every jump, every landing. This creates severe, early-onset arthritis and chronic back pain that compounds for the rest of their lives. And then there is the finding that should make every veterinarian who ever performed this procedure profoundly uncomfortable. Radiological studies found that in over half of all declawed cats, fragments of the amputated bone were accidentally left inside the sealed paw. These jagged shards attempt to regrow beneath the skin. The cat walks on them forever. Clinicians have compared it to spending your entire life with a piece of broken glass permanently lodged inside your shoe, with nowhere to go and no way to tell anyone. A comprehensive clinical study compared 137 declawed cats to 137 cats with intact paws. The declawed cats were 4.5 times more likely to bite and showed more than 7 times the rate of litter box avoidance. Neither of those behaviors is spite. Both are the direct biological consequences of an animal in constant, unrelenting pain, desperately trying to compensate for everything that was taken from them. Declawing is already illegal in many countries. The data explains why. The fourth area involves the way we play and the hidden lesson we teach without realizing it. When humans use their hands and feet as toys, chasing a kitten around and letting it bite and scratch at bare skin, the lesson the cat learns is simple. Human skin is fair game. That is fine when they weigh 2 pounds. It is a genuinely dangerous habit when they are fully grown, fast, and capable of real damage. But the deeper problem is what rough, unpredictable play communicates to a cat's brain. Cats use body language in microseconds. A rapidly flicking tail, flattened ears, and fully dilated pupils are not signs of excitement. They are the warning lights of a nervous system that has shifted from play mode into threat response mode. When humans continue pushing past those signals, they are teaching the cat that its communication does not matter, that its boundaries will be ignored. Over time, playtime itself becomes associated with the loss of control, and the cat either shuts down or escalates into genuine aggression just to make the message finally land. The fifth thing is one that most cat owners do not even recognize as harmful: inconsistent or harsh discipline. The spray bottle, the yelling, the finger jabbed toward a cat's nose. People use these methods because they appear to work. The cat stops, it retreats, it goes quiet. The behavior seems corrected. What has actually happened is something psychologists documented decades ago in a landmark series of experiments. It is called learned helplessness. When an animal is exposed to repeated, unpredictable punishment it cannot escape or predict, its brain eventually reaches a conclusion. Nothing I do matters. Resistance is futile. And the animal stops trying entirely. The neural pathways responsible for motivation, exploration, and self-directed action become suppressed. The cat that used to knock things off shelves and demand attention now sits quietly in the corner. Owners see this as success. What they have actually done is systematically dismantle their cat's sense of autonomy, curiosity, and will to engage with its environment. That is not a trained cat. That is a psychologically defeated one. Science has confirmed what good trainers have always known. Cats respond to positive reinforcement with measurable effectiveness. Rewarding what you want to see more of, redirecting what you do not. The behavior improves, and the trust stays intact. The sixth area is one most people completely underestimate: the small things. Skipping grooming, letting the litter box go, ignoring hairballs. These are not minor oversights. To a cat, the physical environment it inhabits is the direct expression of how safe it is in the world. A dirty litter box is not just unpleasant, it is a signal that the territory is compromised, that hygiene is failing, that safety cannot be assumed. Cats who are consistently well cared for in these basic ways show lower stress markers, more confident behavior, and stronger bonding. The small things are not small. They are the daily vote you cast on whether your cat should trust you. The seventh involves something invisible but absolutely foundational: territory, and specifically, what happens when you erase it. When a cat rubs its face against your door frame, your ankle, or the corner of your couch, it is not showing affection in the way you might think. It is performing a precise biological function. Glands in its cheeks release what scientists call F3 facial pheromones, a specific chemical signal that marks objects as safe, familiar, and belonging to the cat's secure world. This is not decoration. This is the cat's navigational map, a chemical atlas that tells its nervous system what is safe and what is unknown. When you move the furniture, when you deep clean the baseboards and scrub away every trace of scent, when you relocate the litter box without warning, you are not tidying up the house. From your cat's perspective, you have just erased its entire map of reality. Researchers measured what happens next by testing salivary cortisol, the primary biological marker of stress. Cats in disrupted environments showed significantly elevated stress levels. But here is the part that is genuinely remarkable. When scientists reintroduced synthetic analogs of the F3 pheromone to those same disrupted spaces, 75% of the cats showed measurable drops in cortisol. Their stress literally came down because the chemical map had been restored. The territory was readable again. Erasing a cat's scent is not cleaning. It is the psychological demolition of their home. The eighth thing brings us to one of the most watched categories of content on the entire internet, and one of the most misunderstood acts of cruelty hiding inside it: pranks. Specifically, the cucumber prank. You have seen the videos. Someone places a cucumber silently behind a cat while it eats. The cat turns and launches itself violently into the air. Tens of millions of views, everyone laughing. The cat, by all appearances, fine a few seconds later. Here is what is actually happening. A cat's peripheral vision registers a green, elongated shape placed silently behind it. The amygdala, which is the brain's threat detection center, does not wait to gather more information. It has already matched that shape to the visual profile of a snake, a natural predator of small felines throughout evolutionary history. The brain bypasses the logical, thinking prefrontal cortex entirely and detonates the fight-or-flight response before the cat has consciously processed anything at all. But the real, lasting damage is not the startle itself. It is where the prank almost always happens: next to the food bowl, in the feeding area. Cats use pheromones and routine to establish their feeding station as an absolute safe zone. It is the one place where an apex predator allows itself to become completely vulnerable, head down, senses temporarily compromised by the focus of eating. When a perceived predator materializes from nowhere inside that ultimate sanctuary, the cat does not form a fear of cucumbers. It forms a permanent negative association with the feeding bowl, the room, and the human who was standing there when it happened. Ethologists warn that a single event like this can trigger generalized long-term anxiety, leaving the cat with a sustained belief that its core territory is compromised, that nowhere is fully safe anymore. One video, one moment. Potentially months or years of ambient fear in an animal that cannot understand why it no longer feels comfortable in its own home. Costumes land in the same category. A cat dressed in a tiny outfit might generate adorable content, but the physical restriction of movement and the inability to access its own body tells the cat's nervous system that it is trapped. The laughter of humans watching does not translate. What translates is the loss of control. The ninth behavior involves introductions, and the fundamental misunderstanding of how cats process new faces. When something new enters their environment, whether it is a person, another pet, or even an unfamiliar object, cats need time to gather information. They rely on scent far more than sight to establish safety. A new face means nothing. A new scent, gradually introduced through objects like blankets and toys shared between spaces, builds the foundation of recognition. When humans force interactions by holding a new cat or person in front of a resident cat and expecting acceptance, they are bypassing the entire trust-building mechanism the feline brain requires. The result is not adaptation, it is fear aggression. The cat feels cornered, its escape routes blocked, its signals ignored. What happens next is a defense response that the cat did not choose, and that humans then label as aggressive behavior, further damaging the relationship between the two animals and the trust they had with the human engineering the introduction. The gradual approach is not optional for cats. It is the only neurologically sound pathway to genuine acceptance. And the 10th thing on this list is perhaps the most quietly devastating of all, because it is not something people do to cats. It is something they fail to understand about them. It is the failure to recognize what it actually costs a cat to trust you in the first place. Cats are the direct descendants of solitary apex predators. Unlike dogs, who evolved across thousands of years of pack life with built-in social mechanisms for reconciliation, appeasement, and the repair of conflict, cats came from a lineage of animals that survived entirely alone. In the wild, a solitary predator has no pack to protect it, no group to absorb its mistakes. An injury sustained from an unnecessary conflict or a single misjudgment about the safety of a location is not an inconvenience. It is a death sentence. Because of this, the feline brain is not designed to easily dismiss a threat. It is not built with the neural architecture for appeasement rituals or rapid forgiveness. Those mechanisms did not evolve because they were not needed. In the wild, forgetting a source of danger is synonymous with dying. When your cat chooses to exist alongside you, it is doing something that directly contradicts millions of years of genetic programming. It is mapping your home with its scent. It is lowering its guard. When it slow blinks at you, when it exposes its belly, when it falls asleep in the same room as you, it is overriding the deepest survival instinct in its biology. It is choosing every single day to believe that you are safe. That is not something to take lightly. It is a biological leap of faith from an animal that was never designed to take leaps of faith. And when that trust is broken through pain, fear, chaos, or the casual cruelty of not paying attention, the cat does not hold a grudge. It does something far more serious. It updates its threat assessment. Its brain physically rewrites the neural map. And the path back is long, slow, and requires patience that most humans are not willing to offer. But here is what the science also tells us. The feline brain is plastic. It can be rewritten again. With systematic desensitization, with counterconditioning, with the discipline of staying below the threshold of fear, while consistently pairing your presence with safety and reward, the brain learns a new story. Not forgetting the old one, but building a stronger, safer association that gradually suppresses it. The cat that once hid when you walked in can become the one pressed against your leg while you sleep. That transformation is possible, but it begins with understanding what you are actually dealing with. Not a moody pet, not a creature that randomly decides to like or dislike you. A neurologically complex, evolutionarily sophisticated animal that is handing you something it was never supposed to give anyone. Its trust is not a small thing. Treat it accordingly. If this changed the way you think about the animal sharing your home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling us which of these surprised you most. And if you want to keep understanding the hidden inner life of cats, subscribe. There is a lot more we have not covered yet.